Hello, this is going to be a tutorial on how to solve an ultimate cube. If you want more information about what an ultimate cube is and where you can purchase one and things of that nature, go to my channel and look up the review I have for it. It'll give you more information about the overall cube, where you can buy it, and things of that nature. This is going to basically be a tutorial on how to solve it, and that's it. So, the first thing you need to know about the ultimate cube is that it's not nearly as hard as it looks. At first glance, there's a lot of colors, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, but in reality it's really not that hard to solve. And while it's in its solved state, I'm going to go over just kind of how we're going to do it so that you can visualize it better once we scramble it up. You'll notice that along this bottom here, all of these bottom triangles are white. Now if we just use this face for example, you'll notice all of these are going to be red. And again, all these top ones are blue. So obviously there's a pattern here. Although it does have a kind of triangular pattern, it kind of looks like that. The main pattern is that each face, or each part of the face, whether it be the left, right, top, or bottom, all of the faces will have the same color on them. So in this case, the orange is going to be on the right, just like so. So, now that we understand that a little bit better, let's go ahead and scramble up the cube. Okay, so it's scrambled up now, and we're going to go ahead and start solving it. Now, the first thing you need to do when you're solving a cube, any cube that has multiple colors on the centerpiece, is you have to make sure that you orient the centerpiece so that you start off on the right foot. If you start off without having the centerpieces oriented, then it's not going to work out in the long run. Luckily, unlike the Rubik's King cube, which might look similar to this, the Ultimate Cube is a lot easier to orient. All you have to do is, like I said earlier, make sure that all the colors on a specific face are pointing the same direction. So, for example, the white are going to point downward for this tutorial. So, for example, I'm going to point the white down. That white's facing down, that white's facing down, this white's facing up. So I'm going to rotate it so it's pointing down. So you now see that all of the whites are now facing downward. Now at this point, I need to orient the very bottom. Now all I have to do is use one of the faces. Let's just use this one. And you'll notice I have yellow and green. So I just need to make sure that my yellow and green line up also. So you'll see that yellow, yellow, green, and green. They all line up. So now that all of my whites are facing downward, and my yellow and green are also matching, as you can see, I can go ahead and start solving for the cross. Now, again, I don't want to mess up the orientation, but if I do mess up the orientation, it's really easy to fix it. All I need to remember is that I need to point the white towards the bottom. So let's start with this piece, for example. All I need is a red and white piece, which is right here. The easiest way to get a piece into its area without messing up the orientation of the centers is to get that piece in the top layer. Make sure it's oriented the correct way. And then all you have to do is, once it's in the top layer and oriented correctly, you take the face that it needs to be on, rotate it 180 degrees onto the top layer, align the piece like so, and then rotate it back down to the bottom. So you'll notice I didn't mess up the center on either face, just like that. Now, if a edge is not oriented the correct way, all you have to do is do one of these. See, we'll take this left face, for example. This green and white, I need the white to be here and the green to be here. Right now it's backwards, so all I'm going to do to flip that is really simple 3x3 stuff, but in case you don't know, you're just going to lift up the left face, put it onto the left face, then lower the left face, turn the cube around, raise the right face, move it out of the way, and then lower the right face. So basically all that does is it takes the piece, moves it down here, and then pops it back out with the opposite orientation. It's pretty simple. If you don't really know what I'm talking about, review your 3x3 stuff. So now we're going to move on to the next face. Now, how do we know what the next color is? Well, we can really use any of these. We already did the red one, as you can see. So let's go ahead and let's just do this green one right here. So I know I'm going to need green and white, and I have my green and white right here. So again, now that the white's oriented correctly, I'm going to move it out of the way. I'm going to take this white, rotate it upwards, match the green and white up, and rotate it down. So now I have two pieces of my cross. I only need two more. So the next one, we can either do the yellow one or the orange one. Here's the yellow one. Now it's not oriented the correct way, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it to the top and then fix my orientation so I don't mess it up. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the left face, move it up, and then I'm going to pop it out with the right face, just like that. And now that it's oriented correctly, I can take the white, move it up, match it right there, and rotate the yellow back down, and matches up perfectly. Now I know the yellow and the orange kind of look similar because the light is really bright and it distorts the color, but I'm going to do my best to make sure the camera shows the difference in the two colors. So we only have the orange and white left, so let's look for the orange and white. It's right here. And the white's facing the right way. And again, I know that this is the orange and white because on the cross layer, which is this bottom layer, the orange is what's facing this white. So this white and this orange. It's going to match up just like that. Rotate 180, line it up, rotate it downward. Now I have my cross. So now that I have my cross, I'm going to start working on the corners. Now, if you're good enough at F2L, you might be able to do an F2L just like a normal 3x3. It will relate directly onto this, although it's kind of difficult seeing how all the pieces kind of look different and they have multiple stickers on one cube. So what I like to do is I like to do just basic layer by layer all the way up. So the next thing I'm going to do is get each of the corners. Now I'm just going to start with this corner, for example, and the way that I know which piece needs to go here is I'm going to look at the three colors, because each piece, at least the corners, are consisted of three different colors. All I need is the bottom layer, which I'm going to view not necessarily as this right here. I'm just going to view the bottom as being white, since that's what's pointing downward. So I'm going to know that I'm going to need a white. I'm going to need whatever color the white matches up with, which is orange, and whatever color the white matches up with on the opposite side, which is green. So I'm going to need white, green, and white, orange. So let's look for a white, orange, and green. There's one right here. So now that I have the right piece, it's above where it needs to go, I'm just going to do a basic 3x3 algorithm to make sure that I put it down in the correct spot. Now, all I have to do to make sure I put it in the correct spot is take the green and the orange and make sure it matches up with the green and the orange. Now, a quick way to do that is to recognize that the white will never be on the bottom. So I'm never going to orient it like this because that's white on the bottom. And I'm also never going to orient it like this because, again, white is in the bottom. In this scenario, the white is being used as kind of the outside of the layer, not the actual face itself. So I need to make sure that there's no white on there, which pretty much means that it's going to orient itself like that. And this is actually correct because you'll notice the white matches up here and it kind of makes a little diagonal. This kind of makes a diagonal there. And the orange actually makes a diagonal with these two edges. So that's how you know it's correct. Let's go ahead and do the next piece, which in this case, again, we're going to use white for all of these. So white is kind of the base color that you're looking out for, even though it's not on the bottom. And so we're going to need white and yellow and white and orange. So we need white, yellow, orange. Let's look for a piece that has white, yellow, orange. It's right here. Now again, I can't have white on the bottom layer, so I'm going to put this on the bottom. And you'll notice that it matches up right there. And you'll also notice that the white makes a nice diagonal there, makes a nice diagonal there, and the yellow and orange makes a nice diagonal that matches up with both edges. Next one is white and red and white and yellow, which is actually right here. That was an easy one. And again, these are basic 3x3 algorithms that I'm using to put the corners down here. If you don't really know what I'm doing, I'm basically just taking the corner and putting it down on the bottom layer using a basic algorithm from the 3x3 method, the beginner's method. If you don't know those, you need to review your 3x3. So again, diagonal on the white, red, and yellow. Matches up perfectly. Let's do the last one. We need white, green, and white, red. It's looking for it. It's right here. White, green, and white, red. And again, this is the one that doesn't have white in it, so we know that one's going to be on the bottom. There you go. So now we have our first layer done. Looks nice, doesn't it? So at this point, all we have to do is F2L. Now F2L on this particular puzzle is pretty simple. You're just going to do regular F2L, making sure that you align both colors. So for example, this is going to be yellow and red. So we need to look for a piece that has yellow and red, which is right here. Once I have it, all I have to do is do a basic 3x3 algorithm from the layer by layer method and put it in its spot. Again, if you know F2L, you can try to do F2L on this puzzle. It will work, but it's a little harder because I said before, all the colors look differently and it's really confusing. So if you have to do layer by layer method for this, it's still going to work. It's not going to be any big deal. So, as you can see. So next one, we're going to need green and orange. Let's look for the green and orange. It's down here. So let's do this one first. So we have orange and yellow. Here's the orange and yellow. I'm going to line it up with the orange, do the algorithm, and put it in the slot, just like that. And now we only have one more, which is green and orange, which is right here. So I'm lining up with the green. They matched up nicely right there. And now I put them in the slot. And now we have our first 2 layers done. See, that wasn't that hard at all, was it? The Ultimate Cube, like I said, it's not nearly as hard as it looks. It's actually easier than the Rubin King Cube, despite the fact that it has an extra diagonal, and the Rubin King Cube only really has 1 diagonal. This puzzle is actually a lot easier.